it's Emily, and this is my December wrap-up where I'm going to talk about all of the books I read in the month of December. I will note that I basically vlogged pretty much the entire month of December, or at least mentioned all of these books in a vlog of some sort, so I'll be sure to link those down below if you want more thoughts. That's part of why I'm going to try to be pretty snappy and quick with this. Just because I've already mentioned these in some other videos and I don't want this one to be too long because I did read quite a bit in the month of December. So let's just jump right in. And the first thing I finished in the month of December is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the final book in the original Grisha trilogy, the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And in this one you follow Alina Starkov, who realizes that she has magical abilities and she needs to use these powers to fight this area called the Fold. It's kind of a void and there are these magical creatures that are dangerous. This area is expanding and she needs to use her powers to kind of help control this area and these creatures and hopefully fight them off and close this area. And this is, again, the final book in that one, so I'm not going to talk too much about this one. I think the first one and setting up this world was my favorite one. There is quite a bit of fun stuff that happens throughout the series. I was overall pretty engaged and had a good time with this whole trilogy. And some of the relationships are pretty interesting, some of the characters are pretty funny, and definitely a lot of fun moments. Quite a few slower moments throughout this, so sometimes the pacing was a little bit weird or a little bit off to me, but overall fun time with this trilogy. And with this final one I think was overall pretty strong conclusion, but I just wasn't as gripped as I was with the first one for some reason. Fantastic audiobook though. The narrator, Lauren Fortgang, amazing. I mentioned her in my favorite audiobooks, or I mentioned this in my favorite audiobooks of 2021, so if I've already published that one I'll also be sure to link that, or it's going to be coming soon. So the next two books I want to mention actually are The Five People You Meet in Heaven and The Next Person You Meet in Heaven, and these are both by Mitch Albom. These two stories are connected. You can read them without reading the other one, but I think it's fun to read both of these together. And in the first one you follow Eddie, and Eddie is a maintenance worker at an amusement park, and has questioned a lot about what he's done with his life, and he ultimately dies in an accident at the beginning of the story at this amusement park. And he, after he dies, meets 5 people that he in some way either knew or influenced or had influenced him in his life. And these 5 people really help him process a lot about his life and about his death and some lingering questions, lingering regrets that maybe he has about his life. They kind of help him work through those and kind of be at peace with his death, essentially. And in the second one you follow a character. I think you can still read it on its own. It's, I think, a bit more impactful if you've read the first one, because you do follow a character that you meet in this book, and I won't say anything else in terms of who that person is beyond that, but it is someone you meet in this story. And so you follow that person, you follow her death, and again, her meeting 5 people, and her coming to terms a lot with things that are going on in her own life. And I just think these are, they're pretty short. They're novellas, so they're pretty short, but I think they're pretty impactful, and I think they pack a lot into a small space and don't try to do too much with that short space. I think they tell the story that they want to, or Mitch Albom tells the story that he wants to with these, and I think really keeps them short and sweet and to the point, but I think that's to the story's benefit. And I just thought they were sweet and moving and pretty thought-provoking, and I had a really good time with both of these. The next one I read was 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, and I absolutely adore this one. I think this was a standout YA for me, YA fantasy. And this one follows Shuri, who her brothers were cursed and turned into cranes for, she discovers some things about her stepmother and her brothers are cursed and turned into cranes. She can't speak about it, or for every word she utters, one of her brothers will die. And so she's trying to undo this curse. She's finding out that things are more complicated than they seem. I thought this was magical, whimsical, super fun. I really love the writing. I thought the writing was super beautiful without being overly flowery. I love Shiori as a main character. I think she grows a lot over the story, and the adventure that she goes on is pretty fun. I think the side characters are pretty fun. I think there's some fun humor in this, and like, she's just able to pack a lot into this, and I just had such a fun time with it. I think is kind of the main thing. It was so much fun. The next thing I read was the Graceling graphic novel. Graceling being a novel by Kristen Kishore, and it was adapted into a graphic novel by Gareth Hines, and I think he did work a lot with Kristen to make sure that this was also something that she was super happy with, and really kind of resonated with her as something that was a good nod to the story, and I think it was fantastic. First of all, I love the artwork. I think the art captures the world super well, and I think he's able to get the essence of the story. And of course, it's a different way of telling the story. So of course there's going to be quite a bit that's not there that's going to be in the novel, right? But I think this was a really good adaptation of it. I think he got the essence of the story and these characters, and he clearly cares a lot about this story. And I think that really came through here. So I had a fantastic time reading that graphic novel. The next one I read is also a graphic novel, and that is The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Katie O'Neill. And I think these graphic novels are just the definition of cozy and warm, a warm hug for your soul. And it follows these tea dragons that grow tea leaves off of their heads, and are just, it's just fun. You follow people who take care of these tea dragons, and you follow, them going through life, and it's sweet, it's cute, it's precious. The art is some of my favorite that I've seen in graphic novels. I absolutely love Katie O'Neill's art style. You can kind of get a sense of it on the cover there. Like, it's so much fun. And it's very, like, if you need just a heartwarming pick-me-up, would highly recommend. The next thing I read was The Nobleman's Guide to Scandal and Shipwrecks by Mackenzie Lee. This is the final book in the Montague siblings series, and you follow Adrian, who is the younger brother of our main characters from the other two books. He doesn't know that they're his siblings, and he's trying to find information about this relic that was his mother's, and she passed away. She had an accident, essentially, and Adrian is wondering if her death really, like, what was going on, but like really what was happening with her death. And so he's trying to find out more information, and a relic comes to light and comes back into his life that makes him question whether or not it was an accident, because she left certain things back at the hotel where she was staying at, and she used to carry those things with her all the time, and he wasn't sure why she would have left those back in the place that she was staying. And so he is concerned that she maybe committed suicide. He's trying to figure out what's going on. And mental health and anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation are a huge part of the discussion in this one, so do look up trigger warnings, or be cognizant of that going in. Adrian in particular has a lot of anxiety that he's dealing with, and mental health issues that have kind of are themed throughout, I think, all of these stories, but is particularly heavy in this one. And so you follow him going on an adventure to figure out more information about his mother, and in the process kind of finding out a lot about himself and what he wants out of life. And I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was well written. I thought it was funny where it needed to be, serious where it needed to be. I think it walked those lines really well. My understanding is that Mackenzie Lee, the author, has kind of dealt with a lot of these things herself. and kind of incorporated that into the book as a way to kind of process some of those things on her in her own time and in her own way. And I think you can really tell that there's a lot of care given, and sometimes that can be because there's a lot of research or something going, or maybe it's something the author has experienced and you can really feel that they've experienced that or really took the care to understand it. So I absolutely love this entire series. The next one I want to talk about is A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This is a novella set in the A Court of Thorns and Roses world. It just follows them hanging out at the winter solstice and trying to figure out what gifts they want to get each other, coming to terms with the things that have happened after the main trilogy, and it's so fun. Like, it was just a fun time. Like, it's, you know, I wasn't expecting it to be a full novel in the ACOTAR series. I was just looking for a good time set around a winter holiday, and that's exactly what I got. So I had a good time with it. The next one I want to talk about is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This follows Clara, who is a kind of an artificial companion, AI companion, and she is in a store at first is where this is set, kind of a store where you can shop around for these AI companions. She is selected by a family and brought home by a family with who has a daughter, or a girl named Josie. And Josie has some medical issues, some health issues, and so you follow Clara learning about the world, learning about this family, learning how to be the best companion that she can be to Josie. And I definitely see why so many people love this book. There's a lot to love. I think it's insightful, it's interesting, or she makes a lot of interesting observations about the world. It's very sweet, and it's, you know, just her trying to figure out the world, and you see the world through fresh eyes, which is always an interesting, I think, experience. I think this was, I just wasn't gripped. I think there were some times throughout this that I was just kind of bored personally, so it didn't really capture me. But I can definitely see why so many people love this. It just wasn't for me. The next one I want to talk about is In Holidays by Christina Lauren. This one was just a delightful good time. You follow our main character who accidentally, drunkenly makes out with a family. So there are two families, her family and another of her parents' friends. Their family have been friends for a long time. They spend the holidays every year together at a cabin in, I believe, Utah, and she accidentally drunkenly makes out with one of the sons in this other family when really she's actually been interested in his brother for the longest time. And you know, they're on the way back from this vacation. The family that owns the cabin has actually said that they're about to sell it, and so she's just devastated. And she's on the way back when there's an accident, and she actually gets kicked back 6 days before when she's actually coming to this vacation. And so she's trying to figure out why she's undergoing this Groundhog's Day situation, what she needs to do differently in order to not relive this set of days over and over again, and figure out what she needs to learn from the universe in order to find her happiness. And it was just a fun time. I really enjoyed our main character. I enjoy just kind of the journey she goes on. I enjoy the side characters and these families. I enjoyed the dynamic between our two love interests. It was a good time. It was perfect for around Christmas if you're just looking for a holiday romance and a good time, not too serious. I think it was perfect for that. The next one I want to talk about is The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This is another one that is just a fun, cute holiday romance. You follow two twins who need to switch places. So one of them is a judge on a baking show. The other runs their family's bakery like 3 hours away from LA. The baking show is being filmed in LA, and the bakery is back home, like in a town 3 hours north. And so the one who runs or is the judge on the baking show, there's an accident. She some pans get dropped on her head and she actually has a concussion. She loses her ability to taste and smell, which is kind of important for her job. And for reasons she wants to keep going with that judging opportunity in order to have future opportunities in her career. So she asked her sister to switch places with her. And her sister's just kind of feeling stuck. She is now out of a long-term relationship and she's trying to figure her own life out. And so she figures it would be a nice shake-up just to kind of get a fresh perspective, give her time to reflect on things. And of course things get complicated when they each fall for people in the place that they don't normally live, and they're trying to figure out how to live their sisters' lives, but also how to figure out what they want for their own life. And you know, it was cute, it was sweet. Of course there is a lot of belief or disbelief that you need to suspend, because apparently no one can tell these twins apart, which I think is just absolutely hilarious. And you know, so like there's a lot that I was just like, that's not how that would work. There's of course some miscommunication that goes on. There were a couple of situations at the end that frustrated me, but overall it was just like a fun, good time. And because you're following two separate romances, there's not a lot of time devoted to each one. So, you know, those were developing pretty quickly, which is what you need for just kind of a short, quick romance with two sets of love interests. But it was a fun time and I really enjoyed it as just kind of a nice, quick holiday romance. The last couple of things that I want to talk about include, I read the last two novellas in The Dukes Who Stole Christmas. And I don't want to talk about each of them individually because, again, I want to kind of keep this video short. But in one, someone is accidentally left alone by her family when they're trying to get out quickly to avoid some winter weather. She's accidentally left behind and the Duke next door comes to her rescue and they fall in love. And in the next one, there's someone who works at a newspaper as an advice columnist, and she has kind of lied about her identity a little bit. And there's a situation at the newspaper. She needs to throw a dinner party for the board of directors in order to appease them. And so she needs to concoct a whole dinner party and find a husband, a house, and staff to help her pull this off. Things get complicated. She falls in love with the person who runs the newspaper. Anyway, so again, I don't want to go too much into detail on these. I thought they were both super cute and fun. I had a really good time with both. And, you know, they're short, sweet. That's really what I'm looking for around Christmas, so it fit the bill. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Food is Climate by Glenn Mercer. And this is a nonfiction that talks about how important food, agriculture, land use is in terms of fighting climate change. And he kind of questions the dominant narrative that energy is the key thing to talk about. He says that's important and we do want to strive for alternative fuels and looking at our energy portfolio, but we really need to think about land use, and really what we need to do is get as many people as possible to have a vegan diet, and that's going to help with so many interlocking things that are going to help with climate change. So I thought it was super interesting, and I definitely want to look into some more of his sources too and do some more research because I'm just very interested and want to learn more. So let me know what you think. I, again, was able to read a ton in the month of December, and you'll be able to find more, as I mentioned, in those vlogs. So hopefully this wasn't too long. But thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for more bookish content. I will leave my Twitter and Instagram link down below. That's where I like to hang out. I will also leave more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.